going on, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Arena Goat Talk, bringing on the legends and great players of our time, letting them tell their story, and hopefully, guys get some inspiration out of it. So, on this episode, I have the Arena Bowl champion and MVP, Mr. John Dutton. How you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. Great to be on the show. Been watching the previous episode, so man, it's an honor to be selected. Man, that's pretty good company to be a part of so far. So I appreciate it.
Definitely, I appreciate you carving out your time to come on. Again, we all got great stories to tell, and there's going to be somebody out there that can relate to each of our stories. And so it'd be great to find for you to tell your story, and there's going to be somebody that can relate and maybe find some inspiration.
Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to it.
All right, so let's get started. Tell us about where you from and kind of how you got introduced to the sport of football, and kind of let's I guess talk about the beginning of your journey.
Well, I grew up in Southern California, town in the North San Diego County called Fallbrook. So kind of moved there when I was 8 years old, and actually started playing football when I was 6. Just kind of, I played the soccer, and then my dad was kind of like, hey, do you want to try football? And, I was pretty young at that time, but just fell in love with the sport, watching it. And so that was actually in Tustin, California. So I played 1 year in Tustin, California, and then we moved to Fallbrook and gotten involved with Fallbrook Pop Warner. My dad was my coach from age 6 until high school. So had a great, those Pop Warner years, man, just and which was nice was Fallbrook. We had a big high school, but kind of that small town football feel where Friday nights the town shut down. It was all about the Warriors, and so as the Pop Warner, we were all, we were either the Chiefs or the Redskins or all that, and we were the little Warriors working our way up to the high school, wearing our jerseys to the high school game. My 7th and 8th grade year, I was the ball boy for the high school. So my whole childhood was football, and being in Fallbrook, growing up in a community like that, it kind of just bred even more of that, where that small town Friday night lights, as a kid, I never watched the games. I was, we were in the back playing football, but then I became a ball boy. I mean, I was able to be on the sidelines. I was on the bus with these guys, and they were bigger than the world to me, at that time. And then my dad ended up getting a kind of a friendship with the head football coach there, Tom Pack. And our 8th grade team, my dad implemented the high school's offense, which came from, interesting enough, Jack Newmeyer, who was John Elway's high school football coach. Okay. So we had this, and he came in like in the 80s, and he implemented this passing offense at my high school that no one had ever seen. Back in the day, everyone's running the ball, throwing a few hitches here and there. Yeah. Coach Newmeyer came in and, turned things upside down. And then I came to the high school around, like 1990 or something. But in 8th grade, my dad was like, hey, let's do the high school's offense in 8th grade because you guys are going to be playing. So I was going to the high school, the varsity quarterback meetings in 8th grade and learning this offense. And we tore it up my 8th grade year because no one in 8th grade for sure has seen the passing game like we were doing. But that just led into the high school of, you're just dying to put on that high school jersey. And so we had a good career. Fallbrook, we were one of the top schools in the San Diego County. And, freshman year, I played freshman, obviously. Sophomore year, I was 14 for the first couple weeks. And at that time, you couldn't play varsity until you're 15, even with parents' notes or anything like that. So I played JV for a couple of games, which was awesome because those are my buddies there. And then Coach Pack moved me up to varsity probably like 3 games into it, and just started the rest of my career at Fallbrook and started getting, you start back in those days, you were getting the letters in the mail and You started to building this portfolio. My mom and dad still have the binder of all my letters. Back now, I mean, it's all Twitter and all that. So
yeah.
But man, those letters started coming in a little bit my junior year, and kind of the focus was, oh man, I might have a chance to play at the next level. Started getting a lot of ratings and all that in the magazines. The Street and Smiths and all that. You start looking at your name in there, and so I had a good junior and senior year, and really just had a few options going into my senior year. I really wanted to kind of stay on the West Coast. SC was, I grew up watching SC, UCLA, Washington State at that time. Drew Bledsoe was there, and so he was, tearing it up there. And you're like, dude, that's a quarterback's dream to go to Washington State right now. San Diego State was kind of in the mix, but it was almost like too hometown for me. So I wanted to kind of venture out. And I think after my senior year, I was about ready, start my basketball season. Out of the blue, Texas calls me, University of Texas. And kind of like, hey, we got your name. We're looking for a quarterback. Do you have any official visits left? And at that time, I think we could only take 5 official visits. And I had one open, and I said, Texas. I was like, man, I don't want to go out to Texas. That's all flat and everything. And crazy enough, my dad's family is all from Oklahoma. So I grew up watching OU, the Big 8 back in the day. OU and USC were my teams. And then I'm like, Dad, what do you he's like, hey, you got a free weekend, go out. So they fly me out. I think it was my second visit. I went to Cal, and then I went to Texas, my second weekend of my officials. And you land in Austin, and I'm flying. I'm like, wait, there's like hills out here. There's actually trees. I'm like, this isn't the Texas that I read about. And so Austin was a complete different city than what I've ever, I ever thought of. As like I was growing up watching East Texas, I guess, or out in nowhere. So I come and I look at Austin, and the minute you hit campus, it's like you just get blown away. Just the facilities, the campus, the town was awesome. And so I left Austin that trip being like, yeah, this is a place I could see myself coming. And so they had offered me a scholarship, and came home, talked about it with my parents, and I committed, I took a couple more visits, and I committed to UT pretty early. I wanted to get all that process over with because I was playing basketball. I love basketball. I didn't want to waste my senior year of, worrying about the recruiting process. So committed pretty early, and there it was kind of exciting, when you go from, Fallbrook wasn't necessarily a small town. We played the best of the best down there, but your dream growing up is you're watching college football on TV. I mean, that was I loved college football. Still do to this day, waking up in the morning, knowing what games are going to be on. And then now at that time, having that opportunity to move on and play at that level, it was pretty special. And, got all my Texas gear, and I was fired up. So that was kind of, I started when I was 6, and I left for Texas when I was young at the time. So I graduated high school at 17, and left for Texas when I was 17, and moved away from home and went out to the big city of Austin and started my college career.
Yeah. Were you always a quarterback, or do you start out another position, kind of move around?
Man, I did not want to play quarterback. I wanted to be running back. I wanted to be a linebacker. And my first year, I was bigger. I was younger, but I was always bigger than most of my class. But my dad put me right at quarterback my very first year. And so I owe all my career to him, because I didn't want to play quarterback. And so I played quarterback. And my 6th grade year, I said, Dad, let me play a different position. And so I was a fullback and a linebacker. I always played linebacker. I loved the linebacker spot. But that year I was able to play fullback. I had the gloves on. back there you had elbow pads and neck braces. Oh, the big round. Oh man, that was probably the best year of football because oh man, you get to wear all the gear. But yeah, so out of 31 years, I played fullback and not quarterback. So, but I owe it to my dad. He saw something in me, and I didn't see it in myself. But from 6 years old, he said, "You're going to play quarterback." So here I am.
Okay. Was there any particular kind of motivation for you as you're growing up? Was it just motivation to kind of be the best, motivation to kind of impress your dad? Like what was a kind of a motivating force for you?
There was never, obviously my dad played football, and he was actually a fullback, and he got recruited by USC, and then injuries and all that. He played down in Southern California at Whittier College, just with injuries and everything. But there was never in my mind like, hey, I got to do this for my dad or my parents. They never pushed me into sports. I think really I just loved playing. I think I just loved I love practice, and I always did up until I retired. I love just being around the guys. I love the sport. Basketball was kind of probably my favorite sport because I love basketball. I just ended up not being 6'8" and can jump. I was 6'4" and couldn't really jump. So, but ultimately, I think I just love the game of football, learning and also learning it. I think that 8th grade year when my dad and I started meeting at that time, high school was, their playbook, and you're just like, oh, this is amazing. Doing it at such a young age and kind of getting into the film work, taking notes. And then by the time my freshman year came around, I had learned the offense so well. The head coach let me audible, and, as a 14-year-old freshman. I think just the level of my high school of that offense, Coach Pack was very detailed in the coaching part of it. It wasn't just, I'm just going to hand the ball off. I'm just going to, do this simple offense. We were pretty intricate for that time, and pretty detailed, pretty, very explosive. And I think that helped me along as well. Like, started loving that part of the game as well. So it was almost just, I just loved playing. Always was outside on my driveway playing, thinking you're someone else. And because I hear it a lot, I played from 6 years old, and a lot of guys get burned out by the time they're done with high school and stuff if they play. And I was like, I never had that thought. I just wanted to keep playing and playing and playing. And so I think it was just for the love, and I loved the whole aspect of the game.
Mm-hmm. All right. So once you get to college, or we talked about your process getting to college. So talk about kind of like your development through college, your development as a player, and kind of leading into when you're graduating and you're looking into playing pro football.
Yeah. So Texas was, I arrived on campus for training camp, and I remember this guy, my first throw was just a warm-up throw. We're throwing kind of some easy up kind of things. And I was a 17-year-old freshman and had no idea. And these dudes walk out, and you're just like, oh my word, this is college football. And Lavelle Pinkney, he was a 6'5", 200, and he was at least 230 receiver that was from Washington, D.C., greatest dude ever. But the biggest athlete I have ever seen, and I threw him a little hitch route, just warming up, and the ball literally just his hands just swallowed it up. And I'm just like, oh my word, what's going on? And the linemen were just a different, the running backs and the guys you were throwing against, the DBs. And it was just a eye-opening experience to be like, but then also the realization of hey, I'm here. They recruited me. I'm here, and I can get to that level. And so that first year, it was awesome. I redshirted, and it was a year where they let me travel to all the games, suit up. I was signaling. I got to learn a lot I wasn't just doing scout team. I was traveling and signaling during the games and going to the Red River rivalry against OU. I was on the sidelines. I went to, the A&M Texas game. I went to all these different games, and I think that matured me pretty quickly. And then it also was, getting me ready for the rest of my college career. The second year, I was back up. We were kind of battling, me and this other guy, and our starter gets hurt. And at that time, things just didn't work out that's a whole nother podcast. But it was kind of one of those deals where, hey, things just didn't feel right there. And at that time, transferring meant you lost a year. And so that was a big discussion with my dad and my mom. And so we ended up saying, you know what, I think the best situation for me is to go somewhere else. And my dad started the process with some coaches, and, what a blessing it was, because I think it worked out for everybody involved. The guy I was battling with had a great career at Texas. I moved on and went to University of Nevada, which I can't explain to you the amount of football I learned at the University of Nevada with those coaches, Coach Alt, Coach Klinakis, Coach House, just tons of coaches who, those guys invented the pistol. These were guys that I was like, I'm learning. I'm sitting in the film room, blitz pickup. The run game, little details that we had to do at Nevada. If I didn't run our zone run to the nearest shade, I'm getting fired. Right? Just the little details I learned at Nevada has carried me even into coaching now. And so it was a blessing. And then I had to sit out a year, which to me, I thought was the best year really of my career. It kind of changed my body. I got in the weight room. I started working out with all the linemen. I got super strong, great shape. I did all the reps of scout team versus our number one defense, because I didn't let any freshman take any reps. I was like, hey, I'm getting better. So that year, really, I saw a change physically for sure, but also mentally. And it got me prepared for kind of the second half of my career, which was, Nevada and then pro and all that. So Nevada was an unbelievable experience for me. Just our offense, leading the nation in passing, total offense, the run game, how detailed they were in coaching. It was a great decision on my part. And my dad and my mom helped me along with that. And then obviously Nevada giving me a chance as a transfer coming in. And so ended up being a starter there for 2 years. And again, towards the end of my career, started getting the buzz about NFL and kind of being ranked up pretty high. And, it was one of those deals where I could have gone second or third round or fourth round. And, I went to the NFL Combine, thought I did really well there, ran real well, threw the ball real well, did some visits, did all this kind of stuff. And, the draft comes along, and I'm sitting there. My agent's calling me, says, yeah, third round. There was Denver that was interested, Jacksonville, all this. And they pick a different quarterback. And then Jacksonville picks a different quarterback. I'm like, oh, man. And at that time, first, second, and third round were the first day. So I had to sleep on that all night. It kind of messed with me mentally, all that stuff, like, oh, man, this and that. The next day I get up, and fourth round. Can't be, right? It's got to be fourth round, fifth round. I'm the next quarterback taken in the sixth round. So it wasn't like, now 12 quarterbacks get taken in the first round, it seems like. But back then it was Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. That was that draft. So I was the fifth quarterback taken off the board, and that was in the sixth round. So at that time I was like, oh man, it was kind of a big letdown, had the big party, and I go in the sixth round. But now looking back all these years, what a blessing it was to get drafted. My perspective has definitely changed from that day. So not many people can say that. And I look back, I can tell my kids, and hey, I got drafted. And, at that time, felt like the end of the world because I went in the 6th round. But now I know, man, what a blessing it was to even be, to have a video of me being called by up on the stage. And so it was pretty special. Now looking back, it was real special.
Yeah. How was that whole experience in your time in the NFL?
It was it was pretty crazy. I learned a lot about, man, football is a business. I went to Miami. So Dan Marino, this was Dan had, I think 2 years left of his career when I went there in '98. So I got to meet, he was the guy. He was my guy. I grew up watching Dan. So I got to hang out with Dan. And, but then Jimmy Johnson was the head coach, and he was the one that drafted me. I don't think he spoke one word to me until he cut me. Right. So I was like, all right, it's a business. It's, there's definitely a hierarchy at that level. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot how to, compete mentally. You got to play that game. You're not the guy anymore. And especially a 6th round draft pick, I come in and, they spent barely any money on me. They're not going to give me as many reps. And you got to fight. You got to fight against yourself. You got to fight against the guy you're trying to take their job. And then you get that call and, hey, Coach Johnson wants to see you. Make sure you bring your playbook. I'm like, I've heard of that saying, and that I know that's not good. And so you walk up there and you're sitting, and you're like, that's what your dream is, right? Is to play in the NFL and to have to turn in your playbook. And by the time Coach Johnson cuts you, you go down the elevator, your locker's cleaned out. I'm like, oh my gosh, they don't care about me personally. And you kind of get that, not a chip on your shoulder as much as like you kind of get affected by that, where you're not really a human being to them unless you're the guy playing on that field. And so I learned a lot in those years. I got to go with the Falcons for a little bit. I got to go with the Browns a little bit the next year, and kind of learn, just kind of being in those environments, and obviously would love to have made my career in the NFL, but God definitely had a different plan for me. He knew, I don't know if I would have been able to deal with the NFL life at that time. Don't know if I'd be married to my wife right now and have the kids I have. So I look at it as like, man, I would have loved to have had that career, have that money, be, set, but also the career God had for me. Now looking back, I want to change anything, so, but yeah, so an injury kind of took me away from the NFL, and kind of had to move on to my next chapter.
Yeah. So how did you get introduced to the AFL?
So after I got kind of cleared, I had to have foot surgery with the Browns. They released me, and then my agent was like, hey, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? He was like, there's the Canadian Football League, which nowadays that would have been a great option. They're getting paid up there. At that time, people were running to the bank to cash checks because it wasn't a great situation. What else was there? There was the NFL Europe at that time. And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. But he's like, as a quarterback, it's hard to play there if you're not allocated by an NFL team. That's when the NFL were sending players over. And he's like, have you heard of the Arena League? I was like, yeah, I think I've seen a game one time. I think it was, you know who it was? It was the Iowa Barnstormers versus Orlando, because I remember seeing B-Wags playing. Yeah. And I ended up playing with B-Wags for a couple of years. But I remember it was Iowa versus Orlando. And I don't know why I turned it on. I was just watching that game back, it was towards the end of my college career. And I said, yeah, I think I've seen a couple games. And and my wife and we had just got engaged in Cleveland. She was actually training for the Olympic trials in swimming. So she was going to be in Reno. And I was like, man, I don't want to necessarily go overseas. I don't want to go too far. So I made a few calls, called a couple teams, Tampa, Toronto at the time had a team. And then I called San Jose, and they reached out to me and said, hey, we're having a workout. And I was living in Reno at the time. And so I said, shoot, I'll come over there for a workout. And, we're in this little field. And I'm like, what in the world is this thing? Right. I'm like, man, the walls there. I'm like, I don't know about all this, but so I work out there. Coach Malley was there, Coach Arbette, and having a good time there. And then they offered me a contract, and it was 4 hours from Reno. So my wife at that time, we were getting married. So she was going to be in Reno, and I was like, man, 4 hours away. That's as close as I could be. So made the jump and signed with San Jose. And my thought literally was, all right, I'm going to play 1 year in this league, and then I'm getting back in that NFL. Mm-hmm. And hey, 14 or so years later, I was still in that arena league.
Definitely, you get a taste of it, and it's just like, this ain't all that bad, and you end up finding a love for it somewhere along the line. It's like, boom, you love that the whole concept.
Oh yeah.
So how do you feel about your development? How soon do you think your development happened as a quarterback, where you're comfortable with the style of play, you're comfortable with reading the defenses and getting rid of the ball? Like, how soon, I guess, speak to your development as a quarterback, an arena quarterback?
Well, yeah, I remember the first, we did the preseason games back then. I think we played 3 games at that time. This was 2000 was my first year, and then arena. And I was blessed because I got into a situation where San Jose, with Terry Malley, with Darren Arbette, Mark Grebe was there, and the team that they had there, I think helped my whole career, just learning from those guys. 2000, 2002, I was in San Jose, and we didn't lose too many games. And the guys that they were bringing in, especially the second year, started bringing in, Barry B-Wax came in, Bob McMillan, Joe Jacobs, Darren Kenny, and then the receivers. It was just guys that knew this brand of football at the highest level. And Mark Grebe was exceptional. One of my, close friends that I got to learn from. We competed every day against each other. He would start, then I would start, and then he got hurt, and then he ended up obviously having, a ridiculous career. And, but learning, it was a blessing to be in that organization my first year, my first 3 years. I think it developed me even quicker. And I was only coached by a certain amount of coaches, which I was blessed. But looking at the guys I was coached by and played with, I think I developed quicker than I probably would have anywhere else, in my opinion. So it was awesome to be a part of that organization, and winning helped. Winning, being a part of a team that we were always competing those first 2 years. We lost in the semifinals, 2000, 2001. And then 2002 was an interesting year. Mark signed a big contract and going into the 2002 season. And I knew, hey, he's going to play. I wasn't going to probably stick around after that year. And so I went into that year with a completely just a mindset of, I'm going to get better on the field, but I want to just, and then another one was leading our Bible study, being a part of that, which we had a really close-knit group. We had an FCA, really close group on that team. And I just was like, man, I'm good. I'm gonna work my butt off. I'm gonna be the best backup quarterback I can be, because I knew that was my role that year, and then do a lot of stuff off the field. And then when the time came, when Mark got hurt in the second to last game of the regular season, my number was called and I was ready to go. I wasn't hurt by him starting. I just went in there with the whole year with an attitude of, I didn't cry. I didn't complain about it. We had a great year. We were undefeated going into that game. And then, kind of the rest was history with that year, where I just had to continue directing that ship. And we ended up winning the championship that year. And, the arena MVP, all that fun stuff came about. But we had an amazing team from top to bottom, and great athletes, great players. We had amazing times on our private jet back in the day with San Jose, so that made it even better. But it was one of those kind of looking back. It was an up and down 3 years with San Jose as far as starting, getting hurt, then getting benched, and then coming back in for Mark, who got hurt, and winning in the championship. And but man, it was those 3 years kind of developed me to being able to have a long career in the AFL.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now you developed, you got a taste of arena, you developed, you won a championship, you were MVP of that championship game, correct?
Yeah.
And so now we get to what I feel is like one of the iconic games of our time, the confetti game. I actually had Phil y'all on here a couple weeks ago talking about it, and so I want to get your perspective. I got a little footage of it. I want you to speak on it from you guys' side of it, because you got the Chicago side of it. I want to get you guys' side of this game.
Well, obviously, I have a little bit better taste in it than the Chicago side of it. But man, what a great game! I mean, this is one of those games where I think we started out, and it was who it was too. It was Coach Daly, versus Coach Ho, who are best of friends, but never talk to each other during the season. They're like bitter enemies, but like best friends. We always had a rivalry with Chicago and Colorado. I hated. I actually just passed that arena a couple of days ago and hated playing up there. And just that rivalry of all that. And so it couldn't happen to two better teams, right? Guys who always competed against each other. But I think we took a 20-0 lead in like the second quarter. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we're feeling this, right? We're good. And then I think Philia throws the ball off the net to end the half to bring it within a touch. And I'm just like, this arena game, man, the ups and downs of playing this game. And this was definitely one of those crazy games. And, then, we think we win the game and confetti goes all over the place. I'm like, what? And I think, what happened? I don't know if that confetti helped us or hurt us, but I think it allowed you guys to kick a field goal instead of going for it on that last play. I don't know if Coach Ho would have done something different if it wasn't for that confetti, but you guys, we had a tie game going into that. And then I'm thinking, all right, we just score. We're good. I throw a stupid interception and throw it off my back foot. I forget who caught that one. And I'm like, the game's over. I just lost the game for us. We're losing in the semis again. And I'm sitting on the bench, and then the kicker misses it. I mean, by that, I don't even know if he missed it by a foot. And then we get the ball back, and crazy play happens, and we score. And it was one of those, obviously for us, it was a great moment. It was, that would led us to winning a championship. And honestly, this team was a special team. I know every team thinks that, but we had I don't know if we were the most talented from top to bottom. Obviously, Damian was one of the best receivers of all time. Had so many really, really good players. But what set us apart that year was, I think, the camaraderie. Guys, we always were together off the field. We had, obviously unbelievable support from, Elway and all that. But, man, that team was so close that, it made it even more special. And, unfortunately, someone had to lose that game. And fortunately for us, it was us, and we got to move on. But then Chicago got their ring the next year, so it all worked out.
Yeah. So now that game ends, so you guys went on to win that year, right?
Yeah.
So kind of speak to that feeling of, I guess the ups and downs of that season leading into the championship and winning and walking away with the ring.
Well, I tell you, it was, the San Jose one was special. And whenever you win a championship, and it's a special moment. But I never really felt that year or that championship, that was my team. I really felt that was Mark Greaves' team. Mark got us, he was an amazing quarterback. But with Colorado, I was their first free agent signed. Elway calls me up right after the season. He says, "Hey, I want you to be my quarterback." We go 2-14 my first year, and I'm getting booed everywhere I go. I hated playing at home that year because I got booed more at home than I did on the road. And we go 2-14. The second year, they hire Coach Daly. We bring in Kyle Moore Brown, we bring in Rich Young, we bring in some of these guys that are arena league guys, and we have one of the biggest turnarounds in arena league history, and we lose in the semifinals. And then that third year, everything just worked out. We ended up winning that championship, and that feeling, because that felt like that was my team. I was there from the very beginning. And culminating with that championship and the close-knit group of guys from off the field stuff, road trips, hanging out in the facility. That was a special one. Every championship special, but that one really was like, hey, this is my team. Elway sought me out right after the season in 2002 and wanted me to be that leader of that organization, and to be able to bring a championship, obviously the ups and downs of a personal battle with my family, the wins and losses and in the pressure. And then ultimately they entrusted me with that team, and then ultimately loving Coach Daly and his staff and what he meant to me as my career there. And then the guys. So that was a pretty special moment. And, looking back, I think it was 20 years ago. Coach Daly texted all of us a couple, last month was, hey, 20 years ago, we won that championship in Vegas. And so, keep track with some of those guys. And so that was a pretty special moment in my career. So,
yeah. So good. So, in your opinion, what makes a great arena quarterback? Like, what are some good attributes? What are some good things that you think make a great quarterback, and what made you be the quarterback that you were and the championship quarterback as you were? So kind of, I guess, touch on that.
You got to have the physical attributes. I think, coming from the outdoor game into the indoor game, I learned it's that just quick decisions, quick releases. You got to get rid of that ball. I think that was something that I learned real quick with being with San Jose and how they taught me, you're not holding on to that ball. You got guys like you coming around that edge. I'm just like that edge in the outdoor game is 2 or 3 guys removed. I'm staring at the defensive end, and it was, I'm getting rid of this ball as fast as I can. I got to make quick decisions. I think in the arena league, just like any other, you got to be tough. You got to be tough. You can't, you're getting hit into the walls. You're getting hit on this carpet that feels like cement. You got to lead a team. You got to be the leader. And I wasn't a very, in your face, vocal kind of guy, but I showed up to practice early. I left late. I loved practice, tried to practice as hard as I could. I was always in the weight room, watching film, kind of being a leader by example as well. And it really helps having really good players around you. You can see some of these guys, you can make players around you better. And I tried to do that, bringing guys, making a receiver better than maybe he was, making guys better. But ultimately, I had some of the best players to ever play this game around me. And I think that's very important as well. But also, like I said, what kept me going all these years, 30-something years of playing, was I loved the game of football. And I watched football. I always was watching games on Saturday, or watching the NFL, or watching the AFL. If we weren't playing, I was watching a game. And I don't know if you can force that. I don't think you can teach that. But I think a lot of kids nowadays, there's so much other stuff. They can be on their phone and Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff. You can play now. My sons are now playing the college football game that just came out, so I haven't seen them in a couple of days. But I mean, that's okay. But man, not many kids just sit and watch football games anymore and watch and not just fantasy stuff like, hey, my guy got 10 balls and I won my fantasy game. It's actually, hey, watching the game, learning the game from the best. And I just love football, and I loved every part of it. Like I said, I love the weight. I love lifting. I love the grind of training camp. I love practice. I love road trips. I didn't like losing, but I loved coming back after a loss the next couple of days because you got another chance. But I love football, and I think that was part of what made me allowed me to play that long.
Mm-hmm. All right. So after you guys won the championship, this happened, right?
Who's that guy?
How did that come about? Like, did they hit you up and say, "Hey, we're gonna make you the cover athlete"? I guess kind of speak on this, how you got the cover and that whole experience.
Well, I mean, I think that was the year they were coming out with the game, and I ended up being on the championship team. So I think it just kind of worked out that way. There could have been 100 other guys that could have been on that cover, but it just worked out that we had won the championship, and coming off a championship, you get, kind of lucked into that one. So it was fun. It was, and then, I think the worst part was every arena along the wall had that picture on it. So I heard about it that whole next year, especially when we lost the game, they're like, oh, but no, that was a fun time. Guys still, people I coach now, they're like, 19, 20 years old, and they find out. I don't talk about it, but somehow they find out, they go buy the game or, all this fun stuff. So looking back, my kids loved it. They got to play the game, and they loved playing the arena game. My son loves arena football, and he's 23 years old. He's playing here at the college. But we're going to an indoor football league game next week. We go to he loves these games. So he got to play, the football on the Xbox or whatever he had. And so it's been fun. It's been kind of a joke that's been going on for, I don't know how many years now. So it was pretty special to have my boys, have this in their room, and I've signed plenty of copies, and I still hear about it today. They'll pull up a game, guys will walk in and say, I can't believe you were on the cover of it, so it's pretty fun.
Good. Did they hit you up? Like, how did they, I guess when they chose you to go on the cover, did they let you know? Or did they say, all right, you have no choice, you're going on the cover?
Man, I think they asked me, obviously, but no, it was fun. They flew me out to the EA place. I think it was in the Bay Area somewhere. We had a big reveal thing, and I got a little bit of money from it. And then I think, just being able to have the game, and my kids now looking back and kind of saying, yeah, that, just being on a cover of a EA sports game it's kind of cool looking back at that. At that time, I didn't really think about it too much. I thought it was more of a burden than anything because I had to answer all those questions and be the face of EA Sports, and I hated that kind of stuff. But now being older, and my kids and hopefully grandkids will see it, and it's pretty special.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, that was such a proud moment for all of us to be on the game, because we would always talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you come out with an arena game with us on it, and then boom, it happens to 2 games in a row, and we'd be on there just playing it. That's look at my ratings. I'm faster than you.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. We had a good time with that.
So, all right. So you're progressing through your career, and you're starting to contribute to society, and you end up, was it 2-time Al Lucas Award, Hero Award? I guess kind of speak on what that award entails and your feeling when you received the award.
Yeah, we started doing when I was in Denver with the Crush. They were big on getting us out into the community. We were always going out doing things and giving back. I lived there in the off season after a certain year, so I was doing stuff year round with them. And what was great was, so we were doing all this stuff, and then we were kind of like, hey, maybe we can do something even bigger than this, right? And so we got going, and my father-in-law got us set up kind of a foundation, and where, hey, we could do stuff in Denver, or hey, maybe even around the world. So I think it was the off season right after the championship game, or the championship year. My wife is going with our church, and she's meeting with our pastor and our missions pastor. And all of a sudden I come home and she's like, John, we're going to Ethiopia in the summer. I'm like, oh, I guess thanks for signing me up. So we had started the Dutton Family Foundation at that time. And my wife, we went after the 06 season. So I played 2006. We went in July of 2006 to Ethiopia, and it was my wife and I. And the minute I landed into Ethiopia, my life changed, and my career changed even more. Like, my perspective of playing changed. The things we got to see, the things we experienced. It was one of those deals where I was a professional quarterback back home. Landing in Ethiopia, it didn't matter who I was, what I did. The need is so great. The physical need, we love to, we want, faith is a huge part of our life and our mission. But the physical need was so great, and it was so eye-opening. You heard stories, you saw pictures, but to land and walk the streets in Ethiopia, I was never the same after that. So we came home, and I knew I had to do something. We had to keep going. God got a hold of us, and from then I was raising money for every touchdown I threw. My whole perspective changed, and now I still run a sports ministry, and it's based off of, we train and we play for success, but ultimately we're trying to live for significance. So success is kind of what we recognize. It's man recognized by man. Money, fame, fortune, what job you have, all that. We're successful. But significant is recognized by God, and that's what you do to help others in their life. And so this whole success, I still lifted, I still watched all the film, I still competed my butt off, but it was more than just making money. It was more about than just trying to get another ring. It was to help people who were in very, very hard situations. And so from there, the success to significance changed my whole career. And, it hurt when I lost, but the next day I was doing it for a bigger purpose than even my family. I was doing it for my family because it was paying the bills. But we all knew God had called me to play football for a whole different reason. And whether that was, I've been able to speak in front of people. I've given sermons in big churches. I've talked to organizations. I get to go overseas now because I was a quarterback, because I was a professional quarterback. That opened up so many doors for me. But after my trips to Africa specifically, those people can't speak up. They can't come over to your house and knock on your door and say, I'm hungry. I don't have food. I don't have a house, this and that, but I can. And so I was kind of that bridge. And I said, man, I got to take this. I knew God had put us over there for a reason. And the main reason was to use the success he had given me, but to help change lives around the world. And so ever since 06, man, we've been grinding in the ministry world, and still doing it to the day. And it's changed over the years, but still the heart is still there. I try to, my team here that I coach at, we raised over $20,000 last year. Half of it goes to the football team. The other half, we went and built a house down in Mexico, and 11 players from the college here, we went down over spring break and finished a house for a family. So had the track team here raise money doing that, where it is about our success because we need to use the success we have to make a difference in the lives of others. And so that's our mission right now, man. It's, I love coaching football. I love being a dad. I love being a husband. And so I have a specific mission in my own family and my own home and on this football team, but also God has called us overseas still. And so we try to balance all that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So, yeah, because that's one thing, we didn't necessarily do a whole lot of talking in the playing days. I was too competitive to even strike conversations. Because afterwards, she's like, man, I should have talked more. But, so.
But going back to that Al Lucas Award, this was after my 2 rings. And when I got that Al Lucas Award, because when he passed away, Kyle Moore Brown, who was my center, was very close to Al. And, Big Kyle changed his number after that. And so I heard stories from Kyle about Al. And then when I got that award and his family was there giving me that award, and I was watching that game when he passed away, and that trophy, I mean, it's a beautiful trophy. And that's the one trophy. It's in storage right now because we move all the time. That's the trophy that I'm going to pull out because it meant so much more, because that's the perspective of my life has been is, it's not about the rings anymore. It's about using those rings, to make a difference. And that Al Lucas Award meant the world to me.
Yeah, definitely. As one thing I always knew about you, in regards to, what you do outside of football, because, we all knew about each other. We didn't know everything, but one thing that I did know about you is that you did missions work and things like that. So it's good to kind of talk to you about that, to kind of find out, in detail some of the things that you're doing. So
that's good.
Is there is there a website or any way anybody who's interested in helping you out in what you do? Is there any way that they could reach out to you?
Yeah, so a couple of ways. It's Dutton Family Ministries now, or Athletes for the Nations. Athletes for the Nations is my sports ministry. So, my son, who's Ugandan, I have 3 older boys, but I have 6 total kids, but 3 of them are adopted from Africa. And my one son still lives in Uganda. He runs our sports ministry in Uganda under Athletes for the Nations. We have partners in Mexico and Croatia, and it's something where I'd love for guys to get involved. I go over to we do a football camps overseas, quarterback camps, tackle football camps, flag football. It's turning big right now because the Olympic sport coming up, but we do some flag football and tackle football overseas. It's a great way for guys because if you're a professional football player, it carries a lot of weight overseas. If you're a coach, carries so much weight overseas because they're just trying to learn this game. They love American football, and we can come in and it's not just about teaching them how to play. It's also teaching them how to coach and giving them different ideas. And so we go overseas quite a bit doing that. So if anybody's interested in going overseas and doing some camps, and it's awesome. These guys are so eager to learn and they're sponges. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, athletesforthenations.org is my sports ministry, and they can go on there, contact me, and I'm sure, in the springtime is kind of our time to get overseas and do some of that stuff.
Good. So it's great for you to put that out there. So anybody who wants to help or find out about it, maybe they're thinking about it, and maybe they'll be inspired to do some things. So It's good for you to put that information out. So in closing, because I don't want to hold you up too long, what kind of advice would you give to any player that's out there that's thinking of playing pro ball, or they're at a crossroads of whether they want to continue playing or they're interested in arena? I guess any words of advice for those guys?
I tell these guys, I tell some of our kids here, our college guys who, they graduate early and they have another year of eligibility left and they just stop playing. And, I know money eventually is a big factor, but I tell my boys, I tell guys that I run into is play football as long as you can. I can't play anymore. I was fortunate. I played, as long as, couple, obviously big injuries took me out, but it was one of those at 37 years old, I wasn't ready. I still wanted to play the game. But I see these kids and they're guys that, I want to get into the job. I want to go make money. And man, there's nothing like playing football. And, I know there's tons of these leagues out there now, the IFL, the arena's coming back a little bit. European League is unbelievable. You can go play overseas. Germany they'll pay you to go over there and they'll give you housing and cars and you get to play football and go play football as long as you can, wherever it might be. It's just not all about NFL. It's not NFL or nothing. There are some opportunities. Obviously UFL. Hopefully that continues to grow here in the States. But IFL. The money, but man, you're playing football and those memories and I mean, we started making some decent money and then at the end, I wasn't making a lot of money, but man, those memories, you can't do that in an office building. You can't do that even coaching, it's as close as you're going to get, but there's nothing like having that ball in your own hands. And, but my advice would, is you got to love the game to do that, but ultimately play as long as you can. Go overseas, play in the IFL, play in the Arena Football League, play whatever opportunity you can get. Go play football because when you're older, you can't play that. You can always get a job. So
definitely. So I appreciate you coming on, telling your story, kind of giving advice, and definitely letting everybody know about what you're doing nowadays. And I definitely do my part to try to help out, with the ministries and things like that. And, hopefully some people reach out. But again, I appreciate your time and coming on and talking, and definitely be in touch.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this, man. This bringing back all of us old guys, man, talking about the game we loved. And those years were pretty special, man. I was 2000 to 2013 or so, but man, those years that we competed against each other, man, those were some special years. And there were some, I watched some of those games. There's some amazing players that came through the Arena Football League those years. And I appreciate you bringing some of these guys back and love hearing their perspective and kind of get to know them. Like you said, we played against each other, but didn't know each other too well. So it's awesome getting to know all these guys. And even though we're all getting close to 50 and all that fun stuff, but it's all good. But I appreciate you, man.
Definitely. So definitely we'll be in touch. So we're going to sign off and good luck with everything. And if I can help in any way, feel free to reach out.
All right. Me too, man.
All right. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.